Hello there, folks. How are you all doing? As per, let me just wait a moment to see if the audio is actually working as I record this, because we don't trust this headset anymore. Not really. So the video is now starting in another tab. It should do in just a moment, and then I'll be able to hear. I'll be able to hear for myself. Can we hear Captain Swiss, or do I sound like a Dalek? It's a very tense moment here. What's it going to be? What is it going to be? Hello, Captain Swiss. Are we streaming? It's actually not appearing in the other tab. I don't know what this means. Am I live? Am I truly live? Oh, here we Oh, beautiful. Yep, I can hear myself perfectly fine. That's fine. That's fine. Forget the first few minutes of that video happened. I can delete it. I can delete it. Once we get going. Okay, then, folks. So some of you will have been lucky enough to have had exclusive access to my video I did a little while ago, where I previewed Eurovision 2025, where we had a look through all the different Eurovision songs that are heading into the semi-finals or finals, and I gave some thoughts on them. Unfortunately, that video was banned due to copyright infringement. Which is now my second run-in with Eurovision negatively on social media. The first, of course, being my Twitter account getting banned because of a poorly worded joke. And now, indeed, none of you can see me watch lots of Eurovision songs and say things like, "Oh, standard Eurovision, that's a ballad. I like their costumes." That kind of thing, you know. No, yeah. Unfortunately, that's just a bit of lost Captain Swiss media, I'm afraid. The actual video of me looking at all that Eurovision stuff is still on the channel. Just none of you are allowed to watch it. So I don't know. Maybe one day, long in the future, it'll be some little bonus thing I put on a website or something once I get my shit together. I don't know. What I wanted to do is I wanted to touch on a couple of things. I'd been tempted to talk about the trade war in the past week or so, and in a way, I'm kind of glad that I hadn't up until this point, because my God, it's like a roller coaster ride, isn't it? It's tariffs going up, down, wherever. At one point, you had Trump unveiling that board of tariffs for all kinds of different countries, and you had a range of different amounts being offered, depending on this very well thought out and solid economical calculation. But then also you had the tariffs against China, China hitting back against America with their own tariffs, then America very quickly hitting back against China with their own tariffs. And now we've already arrived at a place where America and China, I think they've got like tariffs of upwards of about 100% on each other, which is obviously not going to be particularly healthy for the global economy in the long run. Although the fact that Trump has temporarily at least rode back on most of the other tariffs, or at least the higher rates of other tariffs for other countries, and not knocked all of those down to 10% for the time being, and put a 90-day pause on it, that does suggest that the fact that the stock market in various countries was just falling and falling and falling day after day, might have, as much as the investors were spooked, perhaps some of those in the White House were then spooked by the investors getting spooked as well. Over here in the lovely island of Britain, I saw more than one comparison of this past week or so apparently being Donald Trump's Liz Truss moment. Now, what still remains at the moment, beside this sort of blanket 10% for the time being, as I say, the escalating trade war with China. I think that Canada and Mexico are still being treated differently as well. And indeed, you've got this more overall tariff on aluminum and steel, I think cars, and I think they're now also looking at pharmaceuticals. So just because we've sort of rode back from the precipice of, I don't know, torpedoing ourselves into economic destruction, it doesn't mean that conditions, even as they are now, aren't probably ultimately going to lead to some serious issues down the road later in the year. I think we are going to see that. I very much think we're going to see that. To use my favorite metaphor, which I use for all kinds of situations, it's like one of those old cartoons where the coyote chasing the roadrunner has ran over the edge of a cliff, but momentarily, in cartoon logic, he does not begin plummeting yet until he acknowledges the fact of where he is, and then the descent begins. I guess we're somewhere in that. It takes a little while for these things to come back through, for interest rates to end up rising, for inflation to end up rising, for it affecting. I mean, we have seen more immediate things like the bond market being affected, but yeah, there's sort of like a knock-on effect of delay. So some of the consequences of these tariffs and what it's going to be doing to the economies around the world, we're not really seeing that yet. We'll see it in its greater magnitude a little bit further down the line. But it's hold on tight, guys. It's going to be a very interesting year. So that's really all I've got to say about the tariffs at the moment. There are much more knowledgeable people you can go listen to. They can talk about the precise economic consequences of it. All I can say right now is the most immediate thing of concern, I suppose, is the escalating trade war between the United States and China. And as for everything else, God knows where it's going to go. Trump has temporarily paused it now. Now, obviously, Team Trump is now saying, "Oh yeah, that was our plan all along. We were always going to pause it because everyone's coming to us now and they want to do deals." But of course, they weren't going to pause it up until the point where they then said, "Yeah, okay, we're going to pause it." But there we are. Additionally, folks, in a recent stream as well, I was talking about Starmer and the Labour Party and their interesting sort of hybrid of policies here that doesn't necessarily fit in neatly into one particular description of sort of, social democrat or centre left or centrist or centre right. Depending on the issue, depending on the situation, they're kind of everywhere. Starmer has said that his government's guiding light is pragmatism. And I think this is best shown by the fact that it appears that we're going to be nationalising fledgling steel in this country. I think what's it called? The name of the company that's being nationalised at the moment. British. Is it literally just called British Steel? I was thinking, oh no, that can't be the actual name of it. Is that the actual name of it, British Steel? British Steel's, yes, but it's owned by the Chinese at the moment, but they're saying that it's no longer financially sustainable. And obviously, for our part, we're going, we would kind of like it if we had at least some steel manufacturing in this country still. So by all accounts, it appears that there's going to be an emergency vote in Parliament. MPs have been recalled. And it's probably going to get taken into a national ownership, at least for the time being. Which, again, I was only recently kind of saying that there were things that this Labour government were doing that felt essentially very Tory that I didn't like, especially when we talk about, I don't know, say the benefits changes. And now here we are bringing steel into national ownership, which you kind of go, whoa, hang on a minute, that feels like a very sort of dyed in the wool left wing thing to be doing, nationalising something. Although it is worth me adding, actually, I think you have had the likes of Reform UK, obviously a party very much of the right, also calling for steel to be nationalised as well. Perhaps it just goes to show how these traditional dividing lines, these traditional understandings we've had of left and right, are becoming more and more difficult to track with the current day and age we're in at the moment. But I thought that one was worth giving a mention also. But for the main meat today, guys, we are going to do another little bit of reaction content. It's not going to be Eurovision, because that got us in trouble. Instead, it's going to be something that is damn right guaranteed for me to be allowed to watch here on the channel. And it's going to be one of my own videos. Yes, it's going to be my predictions for 2025. Here we are at the about midway through April. We're going to say we're about a third of the way through the year so far. We are going to mark our own homework as it currently stands, and we're going to see how many of my predictions I'd put out there have either come to pass or appear to be on track, or indeed look like that they're going to fall completely short. So that is excuse me, that is the plan for today. So let me just get this this video up for screen sharing here. All right then. So, look at him. He doesn't have sunglasses, does he? What's he got to say? Right, can you guys hear this? Hello there, enticing. Enticing says if Nigel Farage was Prime Minister, Britain would have no tariffs. I'm not so sure about that, Enticing, because pretty much all countries are facing at least 10% tariffs. And there's countries, I don't know, like Georgia Maloney's Italy, that she's seen as being fairly good friends with Trump, and that obviously hasn't spared Italy. So I'm not convinced that by virtue of the fact that Nigel Farage would be in charge, that somehow we wouldn't be getting slapped with tariffs also. All right then. So these were my predictions for 2025, which I made at the beginning of January. We're now in mid-April. Let's see what has come to pass so far.
Hello there. It's time for me to offer you some predictions for 2025. As you remember, when I ate the world's hottest chip, I didn't exactly get many of them out. So to start off with, I think that by the end of this year, generative AI is going to have advanced so quickly, because I think we are on an exponential curve with that.
Okay, so this one, obviously, I'm not going to be able to say firmly whether or not it's come to pass, because the benchmark for it was by the end of the year, where we end up by the end of the year. But I'm big on AI. I'm very interested in the things that it's going to do, especially generative AI for that matter as well. What I will say is I am seeing time and time again now sort of viral trends and even news stories about people are making everyone into Studio Ghibli anime characters in AI. People are doing this trend in AI now. So it seems that like different things that you can do with generative AI are in of themselves becoming sort of viral trends on, I imagine, TikTok or wherever else. So certainly more and more people are beginning to use these things more commonly. And it's really soaking into the popular culture of the time at the moment. But certainly for my specific predictions I made here, in part, I was also saying things like being able to generate like video with audio, and this being as easy to do as the sort of stuff that you could get from Chat GPT already. Although actually, I think since I spoke about this at the beginning of the year, what has came to pass is Chat GPT now offers image generation, which it hadn't done, or at least the free version hadn't done previously. Although some other generative AIs did, like Grok on X. So I'd say that it appears that we're on track. It appears that we're on track for this one at the moment. That's the current grading I'm going to give this prediction.
That right now, that you're going to have text to video generated content as widespread and as easily available as text to image.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Content is now. It may even be that you end up getting videos that now have audio with them as well. And that will be as freely for people to use as like Grok is on X right now. Shit, I called it X and not Twitter. I'm letting the side down, aren't I?
Yeah, he is.
Next, I think that in UK politics, Reform, the Tories and Labour are going to continue their sort of three-way dance in the 20s for most of the year. Although,
I mean, that's where we are at the moment, I suppose. 4 months in, we remain in a situation where Reform, Labour and the Tories are all pretty much on 20-something%, and depending on the poll and the pollster, sometimes you have one ahead, sometimes you have the other ahead, sometimes you have the other ahead. We're very much entangled in all of that right now. Let me stop the screen share for just a moment. We'll go on to the Wikipedia poll of polls just for a moment here. This is a nice, convenient little segue for us to jump into the polling real quick. So let me screen share this with you guys again. So this is our lovely poll of polls graph that we get on Wikipedia. Where are we right now? Well, take a look at that. The beginning of the year here, being January, it's pretty much remained as that. Sometimes we have Labour out in front, sometimes we have Reform out in front. On the random sort of stray individual poll, sometimes the Tories out in front, but at the moment it's generally tending to be Reform or Labour. But I mean, Labour's on a bit of a dip at the moment. They're not looking a million miles away from the Tories overtaking them right now, which doesn't bode awfully well for them. And that's not really through any virtue of the Tories doing an awful lot better than they have been recently. That's very much down to Labour's decline. Take a look at the Lib Dems and the Greens down here, though. They're having a tasty little resurgence heading into local election time. Ed Davey making much hay with his anti-Donald Trump messaging. I see you there, Lee Hallam. The blood is boiling. So that will be interesting when we look at the local elections and see just just how much these can be turned into actual gains. Local elections are going to be very very incredibly good for Reform. Very bad for the Tories, bad for Labour, and probably pretty good for the Lib Dems and the Greens as well, for that matter as well. Let me bring this back up then. I might be repeating myself at this point. I might end up saying exactly the same stuff about the local elections in this video as I did.
Though I expect that at some point we will end up getting at least one poll, probably more, that place Reform ahead of both of them. So far we've...
Wow, see, well, this is the thing. From where we are now, I can go, whoa, what a bold prediction, Swiss. Reform are going to top the polls. But obviously, at the point in time I said this, it hadn't yet come to pass. Reform was still in their relative ascendancy.
Had ones that have had Reform in second behind Labour and the Tories, respectively. And I'm going to be bold and say that will
very bold
happen by the end of this month.
By the end of the month, if not in the aftermath of the local elections at the very least. I should have been more bullish, really. I should have said it with a greater degree more confidence than I did. Oh, wow, what a face to pause that on. That's horrible. But I think I was ultimately correct that that they ended up topping a poll before the end of January. Yeah, they did. Reform did top at least one poll before the end of January, and since then they've been in the lead in a pretty large number of polls.
Perhaps. Staying on UK politics.
Don't hedge it, Swiss. Don't say perhaps. Don't say if not by the end of the locals. You were bang on when you said by the end of the month. You should have stuck to your guns there.
I think that our local elections that we're going to have are going to be bad for the Tories.
Oh, wow. This is like the sort of thing that the shoeshine boy will tell you on Wall Street from what he picks up as the pro tips.
And not going to be great for Labour. Probably they'll be
bad for the Tories, not great for Labour. Well, yeah, I guess
good for Reform.
Oh yeah,
Lib
yeah.
Dems and the Greens more than anything.
Oh, okay. There we go. So my prediction has my prediction hasn't changed basically from what I said a few months ago, and indeed it appears that we're headed that way.
I was going to predict that Reform would get at least 300 seats, but given that apparently some of these locals are going to be suspended.
Nah, okay, yeah, I'm off there. I think Reform's going to get way more than 300 seats.
Ended this year, and obviously that means there'll be less places up for contest than there would have been otherwise. I'm not so certain on that one anymore.
Yeah. Underestimate. Reform will get way more than that, I think.
I think that the WWE is going to see a renaissance this year, with people in the wider public once again sort of becoming aware of wrestling and perhaps watching it in the same way that you had in like the late 90s or the early 2000s. I don't think it's going to hit its cultural peak quite the same way as it was during the Attitude Era there, but I think that the easy availability of it to be watched now on Netflix, which is launching, I think this week, I think it's going to become more popular than it's been since the early 2000s.
Now, this is a slightly tricky one to measure, really. I've been a little bit vague in what I've said there, because it's feasible, I suppose, to say that it can be more popular than it's been since the early 2000s without it hitting the absolute peak of where it was in sort of the late 90s and the very early 2000s for its cultural relevance. But are we on track for that at the moment? I'm not fully convinced right now. I've not seen an awful lot of evidence that sort of wrestling and WWE is that much more in the public consciousness than it was a few months ago. So I'm not entirely sure whether we're on track for that, as I may have stated it. That said, I think WWE champion Cody Rhodes, I think he was invited on to CBeebies to do CBeebies bedtime stories or something, which I'm not saying that this is a marker of cultural relevance or anything, but it's an interesting little point to look at and go, I don't feel as if over the last 20 years they've had an awful lot of WWE champions on to read out CBeebies bedtime stories. So we'll have to put a pin in this one, where I'm not sure if this will come to pass in the way that I'd expected it would.
That's what I'm going to say for WWE.
And now the reason we're here today, boys and girls. Yes, it was all a ruse, so I could gloat about the Minecraft movie. The biggest movie at the box office this year is going to be the Minecraft movie, taking in over 1 billion. Forget the fact I said the Minecraft movie and not a Minecraft movie, as the Minecraft movie is known. It's the a Minecraft movie. Yeah, that opened hugely, and is continuing to do very well at the moment. I think already, it's taken about $350 million by the end of this weekend. I'm sure that'll be well over 400 million or more. I think at this point it's pretty much a dead cert that it's gonna take over a billion. And whether or not it challenges Super Mario Brothers for the crown of the video game based movie that does the best, that remains to be seen. Also, and this was even despite I think at this point in time we hadn't had the reviews of it out yet, but what we had was the trailer come out, and I saw the reaction to the trailer for it online, and that actually amongst my corner of the internet, video game critic Minecraft fans who would have seen it, they weren't especially big on it. They thought it looked very ugly, to the tune of kind of what have they done to my boy? They butchered it. I Am Steve was kind of seen as really cringe at the time then, whereas now it's kind of this massively quoted phrase with the people going and seeing it. But despite that particular portion of reaction that I saw, the things that I thought would lead the Minecraft movie to end up being incredibly popular was the fact that, first of all, it's Minecraft. Minecraft is the best-selling video game of all time, therefore arguably the most popular video game of all time. Which already gives it an awful lot of name recognition, an awful lot of people who like it, an awful lot of kids who like it, and would therefore want to go see it as well. And obviously, if you're a young kid going and seeing it, then that means that your mum or your dad or whoever also has to buy a ticket to go see it. But given that Minecraft's been around for the amount of time that it has, it seemed reasonable to me that there'd be an audience amongst older teenagers, there'd be an audience to a degree amongst younger adults as well. It has been hit and miss, video game based movies over the last few years. Obviously, I think recently Borderlands was a huge flop. But then again, if you look at things like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, if you look at the Sonic franchise at the moment as well, those are all doing pretty darn well. And I'm not sure if I can draw sort of any hard, fast rules about this yet for saying why something would succeed and why something wouldn't. But certainly, Borderlands was never as big or as popular a gaming franchise as the likes of Mario or Sonic were. They seemed, what am I trying to say? They seemed a lot more bankable. They seemed that as long as you could chart a vague course down the middle of the road with them, they'd end up drawing eyes regardless. And I imagine that's been the case for the Minecraft movie. What I obviously had not anticipated was the fact that there'd be these like viral TikTok trends of people recording themselves going to the cinema and quoting the film as it says things from the trailers and whooping and hollering and throwing food at the screen and chicken jockey and all the rest of it. Although if you'd asked me, could something along those lines happen, I would have said yes, because I think a few years ago you had a trend called the Gentle Minions, which was like young guys dressing up in suits to go see, like, it was either a Minions movie or a Despicable Me movie or something like that, and that was a bit of a quirky cinema going trend. And I've got to admit, I think that's a little bit. I was just born a little bit too early for that kind of thing, especially that I'm not on TikTok either, But I can at least say, yeah, there seems to be some kind of engagement with cinema amongst younger people going on at the moment that seems to be a little bit sort of meme based, a little bit sort of it's very hard to tell whether things are ironic or not these days. Maybe that's my millennialness blinding me there. But nonetheless, that appears to be an element of it as well. But yeah, I felt pretty good about this one, and I felt incredibly good as well after seeing what terrible reviews the film got, and yet it still absolutely soared at the box office upon release. So yeah, I just came to gloat about this one and bask in that glory, really. There's a few of you who've had some comments in the chat. Let's see what you guys have said. Lee Ball says, just typical, isn't it, Swiss? You try to do something different and YouTube punishes you for it. It's not your fault that there haven't been any politics recently. Dr. Richmond, also in bed, says he's currently polling at 42% in Stoke North. Lee Ball says, I wonder what will happen with the council elections here in Birmingham since the Labour-run authority has totally screwed up the bins. Oh, geez, that's a very. I've been seeing that the state of these bin collections in Birmingham and the rubbish piling up in the streets, and it's making me think, wow, is this like a taster of what sort of like the winter of discontent looked like, kind of countrywide? Um, yeah, I think that probably. Uh, I've not looked at it so closely that I'm sitting here apportioning blame to either the Labour Council or the striking union workers or the people at the top of the unions or to what degree who's been the roadblock to what. I'm not wading in on that. But nonetheless, if you're a voter in that area, and the fact is that an agreement hasn't been reached and it is a Labour-run council, I imagine they probably won't be voting for Labour in such great numbers, really, given that they're the ones in charge and there's rats roaming the streets and mountains of uncollected bins. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to have a very good time in the locals as a result of all of that. Lee Ball says, it's always about the bins, remember? Well, this is the thing. This is what we're always reminded in locals, isn't it? No, it's not about big national issues. It's about potholes and bin collections. But indeed, national vibes can affect local results also. But like you say, the thing that really affects the local results is the bins. If the bins aren't getting collected, then that's definitely going to be the thing people vote on. Right. Did I throw anything else out here in my predictions? Let's have a look. Hello.
And finally, I predict that before the year is out, there is going to be an almighty fallout between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and you're going to see the burgeoning friendship between the two pretty much collapse.
I mean, this is one that, I'm certainly not unique in having made that prediction. I think an awful lot of people were saying that. Where are we on track for that at the moment? Hard to say. I don't think Elon and Trump are quite as close and inseparable as it appeared that they were at the beginning of the year. But nonetheless, they haven't had any kind of a big public fallout or anything like that. So we haven't we haven't arrived at where this prediction was. I do think that in recent days or so, we have had sort of subtle pushbacks from Elon Musk against some of these tariff policies without coming out and out criticizing Trump specifically. But he's been finding other ways to voice the fact that he's not really on side with what's going on right now. So this is another one, I suppose, that remains to be seen. We've got another 8 months of the year, so we'll see how the clock runs out on that one.
And Musk goes haywire on Trump and starts shouting things against him on his platform. This YouTube channel is finally going to reach over 2,000 subscribers.
Oh, that's wishful thinking. That was. Yeah, no, that one's not going to happen. If anything, we're going the other way. To be totally honest. Oh dear, there had to be a stinker in there. Indeed, there did. Well then, guys, that is the state of the 2025 Captain Swiss predictions, and I've got to say, on the whole, I think they're shaping up pretty well so far. There's a few that have already come to pass. There's a few that I think we're on track for, and indeed, there's maybe a couple that we're not so sure about at the moment. But by and large, I'm fairly pleased with that. We'll see where we're at in another 4 months' time, I suppose. And that's what you get when YouTube deletes my precious Eurovision content for you all. We get me reacting to myself, I suppose. Anyway, folks, have a nice weekend. I'll catch you all later on. Ta-ta.